Hi guys, Dave Wilson here again, and today, box chain bracelet. Want to make one? Follow me. So, the first thing we're going to need is jump rings, and we're going to need lots of them. So, this might look complicated, it's not. So, for a box chain, we need an aspect ratio of 5. 5. Now, what that means, quite simple, is that the mandrel that you use to wind your jump rings on, or the inside diameter of the jump rings, needs to be 5 times the thickness of your wire. So the aspect ratio is the diameter of the mandrel divided by the diameter of your wire, and we need a ratio of 5. So for my English friends here, it's really simple. Whatever wire you've got, just use a mandrel 5 times bigger. So if you're using 2mm wire, for example, 10mm mandrel, that'll give you a ratio of 5. 1mm wire on a 5mm mandrel, etc. And you can see some sizes here. Now, like I've said before, for my American friends, you can't work out the aspect ratio by dividing fractions of an inch by the wire gauge. It doesn't work like that. You have to work in metric. So for my American friends, I'll put this on screen for you as well. I've got some suggestions. 12 gauge, which is about 2mm, so on a 3/8 mandrel. You see here we've got 16 gauge on a 1/4 inch mandrel. So some suggested sizes here. Now for a box chain, it looks good anywhere from a ratio of 4.5 to 5.5, so feel free to work around these if you've got something that's close. You know, if you've got a burr or a dowel or a drill, whatever. If you know, like a 1/16 off, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It'll still work. Importantly, and this is something to know, whatever size you want to make it, okay, there's some suggestions here as to how many rings per inch. So this is rings per inch. So for example, if using 12 gauge wire on a 3/8 mandrel or 2mm wire on a 10mm mandrel, you're going to need about 12 rings per inch. So for every inch of your bracelet or your necklace, whatever you want to make, you're going to need about 12 rings. And then as you see, if you come down, if you do like little tiny rings, you see you're going to need like 40 of those little 4mm rings. Now in my case, I'm going to use my go-to, which is 1.2mm round wire. I use this for everything because I make it. I make it in the roller mill and then on a drawer bench. So this is 1.2mm. So in my case, I'm going to use a 6mm mandrel, and that's going to give me a ratio of 5. Bang on the money. I can also tell you, if the mandrel's 6mm and the wire's 1.2, so it's 6 plus 1.2 plus another 1.2, that gives us 8.4, and that's going to be the width of my final bracelet, 8.4mm. And if I look back at that table, I've got 1.3 here, and that says 20 rings per inch. I'm using 1.2, so I might need a few more. So for an 8-inch bracelet, I'm going to need about 160, 170 rings, something like that. So let's get making rings. I'm using my cordless drill here. It's just nice and quick, but set it to slow speed. 1.2mm wire, 6mm mandrel, and I'm winding away from myself. So just make a little L shape at the end there, pop it in between the jaws. And remember, every rotation is 1 jump ring. Yeah, and make sure that they're all nice and tight, they're not twisted or anything. Pearl wire cutters, just snip the end, pop it off. Right guys, going to show you a great tip here. So I've wound a coil. How many jump rings do you think I've got? 20? 40? 80? Well, you don't need to count them all. Really simple. Measure it. So that coil is 75 millimeters. Okay, so I'll get a calculator. 75 millimeters divided by the thickness of my wire, which is 1.2, and that tells me I've got 62.5. So I've got about 62 jump rings there. Okay, I need 160, so I need another coil the same length, and then another coil perhaps about half as much again. So keep going. Okay, I've got 3 coils there, so that should be about right. So again, little trick to show you. Trim the ends, butt them all up together and measure them. So I've got 19 centimeters. 19 centimeters. So 190 millimeters divided by 1.2 wire equals 158. So I've got about 158 jump rings there. According to my calculations, I'm going to need about 160, so that should be enough to make a bracelet. Okay, to cut the jump rings, pure and simple, the best possible way to make accurate jump rings is a saw. Use your piercing saw. You've got to saw them. The only time I don't is if I'm making hundreds and hundreds for like a big necklace. I'll use my Pepe Tools jump ring maker. But apart from that, I mean, I've only got 3 coils here, so just use a saw. It's not hard, it's not difficult, it's not time consuming. So a little bit of wax. I'm using a 6-0 blade. I would normally use an 8-0, which is the finest, but I've run out of those. So nice fine blade. Again, that makes your jump rings nice and accurate, because you're not cutting much metal away. And all I do, just pop it on the edge of my bench peg there, just use my finger to get it started, and remember, straight line down the middle and keep my blade vertical. You see, when you're sawing, you need to saw vertical like that, so that these edges butt up nice and square. So always saw vertically straight through the centre. Yeah, if you cut at an angle, what you'll find happens is, let's just flip this around, you know, you get things like that where you end up with like sort of spikes sticking up, and it's difficult to butt them up together. So always cut vertically. And another important tip, have a nice clean tray underneath you to catch all the jump rings. And it's as simple as that. You see, I've got 2 or 3 there, so I can just knock them off. If they stay on the blade, that's fine. If they drop off into the tray, that's fine. Just keep going. And again, remember, all the time I'm doing this, I'm watching my blade and I'm making sure that my blade is completely vertical. I'm cutting at about 45 degrees. Remember, don't cut them in half. Okay, and it's as simple as that. I've only got 3 links to do, so I can do these in a few seconds. Okay, so that's one of my jump rings that I've just sawn there. Nice, smooth ends. But how many times have you seen jump rings that look like this? Yeah, that kind of horrible jagged edge there. You see that? Okay, and I cringe every time I see videos and people have jump rings like that. Right, why is that? Because when people are cutting the links, they cut them with wire cutters. Now the problem is, even if you use absolute high quality flush cutters, these are Tronics Super Flush, some of the best you can get, but even so, they're only flush on one side. You see, because of the shape of the jaws, you're always going to get that jagged edge at the other end. So if you absolutely must use a pair of wire cutters, then let me show you a trick to avoid those horrible edges. Okay, so I'll get a blade, a little penknife or something. I've just got the end of a little coil here, and you want to just put it in between each groove. Okay, so you're just opening it up a little bit. Okay, you see that? I've just created a bit of space, that's all I'm doing. I've got my flush cutters. Now, the problem is what people do is people just snip along like that. So you're going to get flush cuts on one side, but all the other ends are going to be slanted and jagged, which you don't want. So here's a little tip. Start by trimming the end. So trim the end with your flush cutters there. Okay, so that is a flush end. I'm now going to flip my cutters over. I'm going to do that. So you see that as flush at both ends. That is a perfect jump ring. But now you see I've got that jagged edge here again. So before I cut the next one, this is the important tip. Clean up that end. Now cut the next one. So flip it round and again cut the next ring. Yeah? Let's just let go of that. So once again, trim the end flush, flip your cutters round and then cut the next jump ring. And the point is all your jump rings will have nice flush ends. Yes, it's a little bit wasteful, and yes, it's not as accurate as cutting it with the saw. So if you can, always cut them with the saw, you'll get better results. But if you have to use a pair of flush cutters, maybe using thin wire or tiny little jump rings, then clean the end, flip them round, use that move, and you will get good jump rings. So, let's carry on. So there we go, load of nice jump rings. Now to start, it's identical to a Byzantine. So we're going to start with 2, 2, 2. So we want 4 jump rings and 2 open ones. So close 4 and open 2. So 4 closed and 2 open. And pure and simple, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all 4 rings onto an open one. There we go, and close that. And then everything that we do on this chain is in pairs. So again, we'll get another open one, put it through all 4 of those closed jump rings again. You see what we've got there, and then close that. Okay, so you see what you've got there. 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2, 4, 6. Okay, and you can twist a bit of wire through, a little cable tie or something, piece of string. I like to use these lanyard clips. So that's going to be the end, and we're going to work that way. Now all the rest of the rings need to be open. You don't need to do them all at once, but it's going to speed it up. So I'm just going to open about a dozen, and then we can get started with assembly. I can actually do these with my fingers, they're only 1.2 mil. Okay, I've got a few open links here, so let's start assembly. It's really simple. If you've made the Byzantine before, it's very similar to a Byzantine, but just with 2 less rings. So, we've got the 6 rings there, so start by flipping the end 2 back. So again, this is identical to how you start a Byzantine. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a jump ring through the middle, through there. Can you see that? I'll just show you that again. Okay, so the end rings, you want to flip them back, kind of hold them with your fingertips there. And then the next jump ring is going to go through the middle. Yeah. So let's get the jump ring, show you where it goes. It goes. So let's get a jump ring, and we're going to go through the middle there, you see that? And close it. There we go, close it. So you see what we've got? So you see we've got those 2 links flipped back now, and then the others kind of open up that way to form a V shape. It's exactly the same as the Byzantine. And again, everything is done in pairs. So put another one through in exactly the same spot, And again, because these jump rings have an aspect ratio of 5, they're nice big wide open rings, so weaving them is actually quite easy. It's not tight, it's not complicated. So this is a really great chain for your first time. Maybe do this before you do the Byzantine. Okay, let's just get my tweezers again. So that's where we're at now, yeah? So the 2 links that we've flipped back, and then we've put the 2 connecting rings through the middle, yeah? So let's add 2 more rings. Again, everything's done in pairs. So 1 and close. Okay, and again double everything up. So another one just through the end, 2 links, and close that. There we go. Just get my tweezers again. My tweezers just help you to see what I'm doing. Okay, so I just put another 2 links on the end there. Now, with the Byzantine, you would add another set of links, but with this box chain, all we do now is we start all over again. So we flip those end 2 links back. So we get an open link and we go through the middle and through the middle of both of them, and just check that it's going through the centre there. And I think you can already start to see the box pattern. Again, double it up, always add them in pairs. So add another one. Let's just add it through from the other side just to be awkward. Yeah, exactly the same. And again, close that. So you can see there now the pattern starting to form, even just with 2 links. So you see you got the flip back links going one way, the other links are up and up that way. Like I say, it's kind of like half of a Byzantine, but all going in the same direction. So I'm just going to move to the bench peg now. I'll zoom in and I'm just going to speed up so you can just get a real feel for what it looks like in real time. Okay, so I've zoomed into the bench peg here and I've got 8 open links. So that should give me 2 link sections like this, so it should basically double it. So I'm just going to work at my full speed, and so you can get a good idea. So open links, so we've got one, they're the through links, so I'm going to put an extra 2 on. So 1 and close that. Again, double up and close that, so you can see what I've got there. So now you've got the 2 at the end, flip them and then the through link goes through the middle, so through the 2 links in the middle and out the end. And then again double up, so this is another through link just through the end there. Just gonna tidy up that little link there, a little bit sloppy. Okay, so again they're my through links, so I had another 2, so 1 and 2, just straight through the ends. There we go. So again we've got the 2 plus 2, so we flip those end links back. I apologise if you start to hear some background noise. The gardeners are mowing the lawns, so there's a lawnmower going round outside. But it's summer, so hey, that's what happens. And there. So let's just get my tweezers again. Okay, so you can see I've just added 2 more sections now. So once you get going, it's really fast. It's just those 2 moves. Once you put your through links through, add another 2 links and then flip them back, and that's all it is. So keep going until you get to about 7 inches. I'm going to make a bracelet here, so I'm going to go to 7 inches, and then I'll show you how to add a clasp and a hook and to finish it off. So join me at the other end. Now, the cool little tool I want to show you here, this little ring. This is just aluminium or aluminum for my American friends, and it's got some grooves cut in it. You can buy these or you can just make one yourself, and that fits on my little pinky finger there. Right, so what do I do with that? Let me zoom out and I'll show you. So basically, every time I pick up one of these rings, I need to open it, and that's where this little ring comes in. So you shove it in and twist, yeah? Let's do that again. So grab a ring, pop it in, twist, yeah? And I find it really speeds everything up. So that's all my jump rings used up, and I'm about bang on 7 inches, so that's kind of worked out nicely. So the last thing is just to put a clasp on it. Really simple option is a nice big lobster clasp. Pop that on the end. The only thing to make sure is that your clasp is at 90 degrees to the other end, so that when you wrap it round, you see, it'll go through and it won't be twisted. So lay it all out flat and make sure that it's the right way around. If you need to twist it, just add another jump ring in order to rotate it. So make sure that your clasp goes through the other end. Another option, I've used a few of these in the past. These are like giant bolt rings. These can look quite nice, especially with circular designs. Now personally, I like to use a hook. I make these, just a loop of wire soldered together. You've seen me do this on lots and lots of videos before. The advantage with a hook is that there's no moving parts. You see, the bolt rings or the lobster clasps, they've got little springs in them and they will eventually fail. Whereas a hook is indestructible, so that's never going to wear out or fail. So, personal choice. So here we have my bracelet. So I've gone with the hook and then a large jump ring at that end. If I'm only using a single jump ring, I like to make it a little bit thicker, and I make sure that I solder it. And then likewise, these two links here that hold the hook, I will always solder these as well. So this is my final bracelet, all complete. I can tell you that I've added an extra inch to the end, so this is actually 9 inches now, because I like them to hang loose. Important thing to remember as well is that because it's very wide, it's always worth adding a little bit extra. So if ever you're making a thick wide bracelet like this, always add a little bit to the length, just to accommodate for that. Okay, let's see what it weighs. So that's 42.2 grams, and let's have a see what that's in troy ounces. That's 1.36 troy ounces, so 1 1/3 ounces. 42.2 grams. And I've just had a little look on my supplier's website. So 42 grams of 1.2mm wire is approximately 3.5 meters, 3.5 meters, or for my American friends, that's 11.5 feet. So remember, that's the 1.2mm wire on a 6mm mandrel, so 3.5 meters. So there we go guys, beautiful chain. Now before I finish, one last thing. I get one question repeatedly on all my chainmail videos. The biggest question I always get across the whole channel is simple. Do you have to solder it? Right, simple question with all my chainmail designs is, if you stick to the suggested aspect ratio, and especially if using 1.2 or thicker wire, no, you don't need to solder it. As you see, that is a really strong bracelet, it's going nowhere. If you make a necklace, you'll have it for the rest of your life. So no, you don't need to solder it. If you want to, it's actually quite simple, especially with this, because you see the links are so wide, it's very easy to prop them up. If you put all the joints so they're all in a line, it's very easy to just go along and solder them all. A little bit of solder paste or pick soldering it. It's not that difficult, so you can solder it if you want to. Personally, what I do, I've got a pulse welder. Now I appreciate not everybody has a welder. Now what I do is, once I've made it, I will go along and I will just put a little spot weld at the end of every link where they're butted up. Important, it doesn't do anything for the strength. Okay, it's perfectly strong as it is, it doesn't add anything to the strength. All it does is, the end of my links, it just welds them together and it just creates a nice neat joint, so it doesn't catch on your hair or catch on your clothing. That's all it is. It's just a little finishing touch. One thing I would say though is, if you don't want to solder everything or weld everything, at least pay some attention to the ends. Okay, if you've got a lobster clasp connected at the end and it's only got one link connected it, you should really solder it, just for strength. The other thing that you might find is at the end here, mine's done it now, don't know if you can see that, the end links often flit round because there's nothing to stop them. So what I would be tempted to do with this is the end 4 links, 2 that way, 2 that way, solder them together. Okay, 2 solder joints there, 2 solder on the other side, and what that will do is, if you lock those last 4 rings together, then your little jump ring at the end isn't going anywhere, and of course make sure that that's soldered as well. So if you don't want to do the whole thing, fine, but at least do a little bit of soldering at the end just to lock it all down together. And there we go. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. As always, thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate your company. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Leave me a comment below. If you want to help support what I do and support the channel, then you can buy me a coffee. There's a link in the description down there. Buy me a coffee, and thank you to all the people that do. Really appreciated. I always forget to mention this, but don't forget, if you want to buy one of mine, you want to buy this actual bracelet, link in the description, check out my website and you can buy all the pieces that I make. And if you don't see what you want, send me a message and I'll make it for you and you can own one of my pieces. So, I think that's everything. I'm going to grab a coffee now, enjoy the garden. Thanks for watching. I've been Dave Wilson. Thanks for watching and I'll see you real soon on the next video. Bye for now.